Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Swami Devarshi and Brahmachari Premdas. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Barakiel, and this is Shamini. And together we help run the Ananda India online community. And we are very pleased and happy to host the Ananda Monastery and collaborate, I should say, with the Ananda Monastery in starting this new class series that they are going to be giving to all of us, which is basically deepening your spiritual practice. And really it will be fun because we will be taking, or they will be taking, we together, I guess, and we'll be all practicing together different topics every month, and they're going to be very practical. It's not just going to be philosophy, so there will be different calls to action, and we really hope that you will be able to practice whatever they share with us, dive deep and practice whatever they share with us. And um, this for this particular month are going to go into the subject of changing your habits at will. Now, as I said, every month there will be a different subject, and we welcome your suggestions for, since we are wanting to serve you, what are some subjects that perhaps you would like to explore, and we'll take them into consideration. I'm not saying that we'll be able to do whatever everybody wants to hear about, but it will be certainly taken into strong considerations. Now, the last thing I want to say is that in these sessions, there won't necessarily be a time for Q&A. However, we recommend strongly that you write your questions in the chat. You can either send them privately to Shamini and myself, or write them publicly in the chat, and we'll be saving them, and they may use those questions in order to guide the next session. Or what it may end up happening is that towards the end of the month, when the series is coming to a conclusion, or the particular topic is coming to a conclusion, they may have a full Q&A session, or part Q&A session, which it will be more interactive. So with all that, I will invite Devarshi and Premdas to lead us.
Thank you, Bara and Shamini, and it's a great joy to be sharing with our community here on going deeper into all these great spiritual teachings and practices that we have. So let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yoganandaji, beloved Swamiji, we bow at thy feet. O great ones, guide our lives. Help us to learn how to change ourselves with energy and willpower, with changing our habits, which cooperate with your grace. Change us, free us, bring us home. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll begin this series that we plan on doing this for this entire year with this invocation to the Gurus. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Satrisham Tattvamashadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvade Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunar pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu, Chasaka Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya, Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. And now Prem Das will share some thoughts on this topic, and then I'll talk, and we'll close with an affirmation this time.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. So it already feels very relaxed, and somehow Bara and Shami have created a really good environment here compared to our webinar series. So it's much more light, and we are so happy to be sharing on the topic of habits. So I'll just share something about how environment helps us with the habits, like how a good environment can really help us cultivate and culture all these good habits. And Devashiji will be sharing more on the habits per se and different aspects of having habits, and that finally at releasing having no habits at all and being one with the God. So I moved to monastery in 2017. So this is like a unique situation, but I'm also trying to inspire you someday to also join with other group eyes, come together and live together in a community. So when I moved in 2017, I'm really blessed to be in presence of all the monks, Devashiji, Jamalji, and all these younger monks we have here, the company of them. So I would like to just touch on few points on how I was able to cultivate some of the habits. Like for example, meditation, a daily practice of having meditation twice a day is like very essential for us on the path. So before 2017, I used to do it, but it was not regular. So what happens when we all come together? There was this group meditations which we all can participate in, and then we started meditating. And then I was able to. It really helped me to form this habit. Now I really know if I'm missing my meditation, I have to somehow tune inside and try to focus more. So I would also like to share one small experience how it was not really easy also in the beginning, because all these long time meditators are meditating with you, and usually we used to have like back then 2 hours in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, and on Thursdays we used to have this 3 hour meditation. That was the longer one. This is all group meditations. We also used to meditate individually, but as part of group meditation we had this 3 hour meditation on Thursdays. Then when the Friday morning 2 hour meditation came, it was so difficult for me. I think I once said to Devashiji about how it felt as if all my strength and juice had got over on the Friday morning with the long meditation on Thursday, and I did not know what to do then, to read a book or what to do. But I would really tell you, but after this time, like 2.5 years or 3.5 years now, that it has truly improved. So what has changed? Like Params Yogananda ji says that as you start going deeper in meditation, you'll start to enjoy the longer meditations. That's one of the things that has helped. Also, devotion and chanting has taken. If we ever increasingly try to keep the flame of that devotion burning within us, that will help us always to whenever we look forward to the meditations then. So all this has been possible due to the magnetism of all these great souls around me. So one more small aspect I would like to touch on is seva. Our day here revolves around meditation and seva. So because I have also worked in corporate this thing before coming here, so I'm able to relate more in the terms of how helpful and beneficial it is to work and serve within Ananda. One thing, for example, is we all are like the harmony is such an important part of this when we all serve together. So what happens in the outside thing, we all have to uh, please our egos and make sure we are the top of the ladder, and somehow everybody is trying to climb the same thing and we all have to push them aside, make sure our spot is there. All these things happen. But here, in the beginning, maybe we have some of those qualities sometimes we try to show, but we all know at the same point that we all are here to find God, at the same time to share God. So we all try to do our best, and we all like try to help each other. And many times the decisions that take like many hours in meetings in a corporate office here takes place in minutes, because somehow many people, the senior people, are so in tune that they somehow know how to intuitively also take decisions. And the thing about habits here is it's more easier to develop all these habits staying in the environment with your guru bhais. So having this environment, like, environment is stronger than willpower. So this environment, you will be able to be more centered. I'm able to feel it, like I'm able to be more centered, more at calm, and do one thing at a time, and few more things which must to cultivate these habits, which are very beneficial on the spiritual path, like getting your time for meditation, like I said previously. Okay. Now, one more aspect that I would like to touch on is one more challenge that we all on the spiritual path faces, to always try to keep our energy up, consciousness up, because this is a thing, like it doesn't stop with meditation or so. It's like all through the day, trying to keep energy up or somewhere uplifted. So what happens with Guru Bhais is, you always have to like, somehow we are more cheerful in their company. You also would have seen at the satsangs, at the centers, and how we all are so cheerful. And even when we serve or even when we meditate, it's just like a joyful act altogether, how we all can be in so much joy. There'll be some problems for sure. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but we all, like, due to Guru's grace, and because all of us want the same thing, all of us want joy, it somehow changes the whole equation. All the problems get solved sooner, and somehow the moods which you are in also gets smaller. If the moods would have taken you few days to come out of, here it can be on like few hours and sometimes even few minutes, depending on who you are with and how you respond to many situations. So these are just some of the small things I'm trying to emphasize, how environment can be so beneficial to develop the right habits. And I'll be asking Devashiji to share soon. And with the last thing, I'll be ending that I usually remember Dhyanaji sharing this. Like when somebody is in a low mood or he's not feeling so well, when the other person calls to other person in the world or somewhere, to his corporate friend, he says, I'm not feeling so well. What can I do? And the other person says, me too, I'm also not feeling well. And but Dhyanaji says, yeah, she gives this example. When a Guru Bhais calls to other person, today I'm feeling little low, what shall we do? And the other Guru Bhais like, shall we chant? Shall we get on the Zoom, or shall we go for a walk, or shall we energize, or where are you? Should I meet you? Or somehow to keep the energy up. And I think the spirit is very important for all of us to keep our energy up. Okay, now I'll just request Devashiji to share.
Thank you, Premdas. Maybe I'll just add a little bit to what Premdas was saying. And one thing is, don't underestimate the power of your virtual community to provide an environment for you, because you can see each other regularly every day with satsang, with meditation, and it starts to make you connect you with your Guru Bhais, the way that Premdas was saying. And there's a real power in that. We're in this together, and I don't think any of us can do this on our own. And yes, we do it with the Guru, and that's the most important part. But I wouldn't have done it this long if I didn't have the support of my Guru Bhais. And even now, I get inspiration from the younger monks and from everybody, all of you in India. It's very helpful for me to get that support. So don't underestimate right now, especially, the power to have that support and that environment in the virtual community. So I'm going to talk some things about the power of habits and how important they are. And I hope that we can all be working on some habits in the next few weeks to install some new habits. And I'm going to read some things that Master says about habits and what they are and how important and helpful they are. He says that habits are automatic mental machines installed by man to exercise economy in the use of initial willpower and effort required in performing actions. Habits make the performance of actions easier. Friendly habits are very helpful in performing difficult good deeds easily. So he's talking about all the good things we're trying to do, sadhana, energizing, being positive, because I'm going to talk about mental habits and habits of feeling and mood and such. And then Master goes on, very seldom have you realized that the health, success, and wisdom outlook of your life entirely depends upon the issue of the battle between your good and your bad habits. Henceforth, you must not allow your bodily kingdom to be occupied by bad habits. You must learn to put your bad habits to flight by training all your diverse good habits in the art of victorious psychological warfare. He puts those things so beautifully. So he also says success and failure are habits, because almost everything in life, our moods, our attitudes, how we respond to certain people, those in a way are all habits that we can change. And I'll talk more about some of those ways and specifics. Now, with some of these readings that we'll be doing and some of what you'll be hearing, Master says eventually we want to get beyond habits, because if you just depend on habits, well, the way he puts it, he says the Bhagavad Gita that the different characters are psychological traits. And he says that Guru Dronacharya, he represents the power of habit, but he is the teacher to the good habits, the Pandavas, and the bad habits, the Kauravas. And so habit can go both ways. And so what we want to do is to use good habits to really develop a positive flow of energy. And then we want to transcend habit by itself and tune into inspiration and grace. The way Swamiji puts it, thus it isn't so much our good habits that guarantee our spiritual victory as the inflow of divine grace, guidance, and intuition, which habits get us in the flow with. Meanwhile, the power of habit itself usually ranges on the negative side. Indeed, even good habits need to be transformed by divine inspiration. Otherwise, if one lacks a higher understanding, he may slip back again into bad habits. And so Swamiji points out that this is why in the Gita, Dronacharya had to be killed, because they had to transcend habit altogether. But it was the good habits of Arjuna, particularly, for example, with practicing and doing all the right things, that developed and got him into this flow of success and inspiration and attunement. In a way, good habits of sadhana, meditation, energization, right attitude, these are the greatest aids to start to get us, to help us cooperate with divine grace. Now, we don't want to work negatively by looking at bad habits and just saying, I won't do this and I won't do that, because it starts to get us into an I won't attitude in life, which is not good. So try to find an antidote to a bad habit, whether it's bad diet habits, then just start, rather than keep fighting all the time this bad habit, just install a good habit of replacing an unhealthy food with a healthier one, for example. Now habits, just to give the principles of how they work, habits essentially are a result of a repeated action. And it happens due to repetition. But initially it requires willpower to initiate the change. And so this is why a good habit is hard to get established, because it's not hard, it's just harder. I don't want to make it sound like we're having a hard time here. But they require willpower to start to change a particular aspect of our life in a particular negative habit that we're doing. So it does take willpower. So we need to use willpower to initiate that change. The length of time to change a habit, Master said you can change a habit, any habit, in 30 days or something like that, I think is what he said one time. But it depends on energy, willpower, attention, concentration, and repetition. So we can establish any good habit with that will and energy and doing it with really conscious intent. And so as we work on establishing some new habits in the next few weeks, be aware that doing it with willpower and energy and repetition really starts to change us. It's almost, Master described it one time as grooves in our brain. And the same action over and over again creates sort of a groove in the brain where the energy tends to go and to flow easily, bad habits and good habits. I had a very interesting experience with this, and it showed a few actually interesting aspects to habits. I lived in a house at Ananda Village for many, many years, 17 years. I lived in the same house. And I ended up moving after that to a new place that was on an entirely different part of the property, different route on the road to drive there and everything. And I'd been living at this new place about 6 months. And one Sunday I went to the Sunday satsang, and I was driving home, and I was kind of in a thoughtful mood. I wasn't paying attention, and I was kind of passive and just kind of, thinking, and I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. And suddenly I found myself at my old house. I had driven all the way there after 6 months of not living there. And it was like, how did this happen? How did I get here? And it was because there was a flow of energy that had gone there for 17 years, and it was really strong. And it's almost like a flow of energy in our spine. When we have a bad habit or a good habit, the energy starts to get habituated to flowing in the spine and out through a particular chakra, positively or negatively. And when we repeat that flow over and over and over again, it creates a very strong momentum. And this is the groove in the brain that Master was talking about. Now, it also just shows the power of kind of just sort of spacing out and being a little bit passive, because you may think that you really solve it in this new habit, but then you just relax and kind of go passive and subconscious, and all of a sudden you wake up and realize, oh my God, I just went back to that same old place. So habits take time, they take energy, they take concentration. I'm always trying to work on some habits in my life. And right now I'm working on a particular diet habit, and I'm working on an exercise habit, which has gone really well, and it's gotten really, really strongly established. Again, through willpower, energy, and repetition. And also with sadhana, it's just good to always try to be working on habits with sadhana. So I'm going to give a few potential examples of habits that we can be working on and trying to establish, and just to have fun with, just really have fun with this. And I'm going to especially talk about the power of mental habits, because we don't think of mental thoughts, moods, attitudes as habits, but in a way they are. And so there's two ways to work with this. Is if you have a particular person or situation that you tend to react really negatively to. You hear this expression, this person really pushes my buttons. And I was on a campaign one time to get rid of all my buttons, because I realized if I didn't have any buttons to push, then nobody could push my buttons. And it was just sort of a metaphor for an attitude or just a different way of thinking. But if there's a situation or person that just tends to get under your skin and cause you a problem, it could be, if someone, every time someone cuts you off on your driving and you react with getting upset, or if a certain person, resolve to start acting differently. And it means paying attention, having willpower, concentration, and determination, but have the opposite reaction from now on. So when that person comes and tries to irritate you, because usually they know that they're irritating you probably, react with love, react with kindness. And it takes willpower initially, but I swear you will find that you can make your reactions to certain situations that come up a lot in life start to be habitually positive and good, even really negative ones. So take one that you're working on, have fun with it. Just see this as a game of trying to change. Now, another way of working with a mental habit is, and I worked on this many times, and I just have found this the most enjoyable way of working as a habit. And it sounds strange, but it's devotion as a habit. Now, we think devotion should be the pure upwelling of love from the heart, and it should be. But you can also play this game and this experiment of starting to insert devotion during different times of the day. For example, one of the ways I worked at with it was whenever I brush my teeth, to just consciously think of God. And it's just a fun habit to develop, because it's one more moment during the day when you're communing with God. It can be when you walk out your front door, when you lock the door, just turning that key is just a reminder. And if you do it with willpower and intention and concentration, you can start to make all these little moments during the day devotional moments of thinking of God, and just changing your habitual approach of looking at life from being restless and worrying and thinking about random stuff towards thinking of God. So experiment with some of these in these coming weeks. The other one is just sadhana habits. Meditation habit is the most important habit to really work on. And Prem Das was talking about this. This is what Master says about the meditation habit. He says, meditation is the inner war drum that rouses good and bad habits from the slumber of indifference and makes them want to increase their forces in order to attain victory over the consciousness of the devotee. The grand method of killing bad habits lies in the actual performance of God awakening good habits of meditation. So when we meditate regularly and just really push hard, especially in the beginning, but at any time, to get new meditation habits really strongly established, that's the greatest thing that we can do. It also, Master interestingly says, it rouses the bad habits too from the slumber of indifference. And this is what people see very often when they make a new effort in meditation. More restlessness comes up or more inner resistance, and you just have to consciously work through that. You will find that if you can develop very powerfully the habit of meditation, it is the most important, because it starts to awaken inspiration, devotion, attunement to God, and the desire to meditate. And eventually, this is where we transcend the habit itself, because regular meditation starts to get us in tune with God and awaken our own natural desire to want to meditate, where it doesn't depend on a habit anymore, but on our own inner inspiration. And this is really why Master often says, I have no habits, because initially we develop good habits, but in the end, we want to really be liberated and free and transcendent from all habits, because even a good habit can become mechanical. And when it does, it starts to lose its motivation and inspiration and drift away from us. And finally, just one final thing. Delusion is a habit, seriously. We've been in delusion for a lot of lifetimes, and it's just a habitual thing. My consciousness is limited, I'm not one with God, and it's just a habitual way of thinking. And try to get out of that way of thinking. Affirm your own divinity as a child of God, your own attunement to God and to the Guru, and your own inner freedom. And again, especially through meditation, but also at other times. So now Prem Das will close with an affirmation about becoming free, particularly through habits.
Thank you very much, Devashiji. That was very inspiring, and those tips of devotion. So I really recommend that this week we all try to cultivate some new habits. So today I'm going to read from this book, Scientific Healing Affirmations from Paramahansa Yogananda Ji. Yeah, if you haven't got your copy yet, but I just shared it on the chat, please do order. It's a very good book. So I'm reading from I'm going to read for, I think I'll take a few more minutes. I just read few points for curing bad habits, and maybe do the affirmation. So there is a reading called for curing bad habits. I'll just read few pointers from here. Good habits are your best helpers. Preserve their force by stimulating them with good actions. Point 2. Bad habits are your worst enemies. Against your will, they make you do things which hurt you most. They are detrimental to your physical, social, mental, moral, and spiritual happiness. Starve bad habits by refusing to give them any further food of bad actions. Point 3. True freedom consists in doing things like eating, reading, helping, etc. in accordance with right judgment and choice of will, not in being compelled by habits. Eat what you should eat and not necessarily what you're used to. Do what you ought, not what your habits dictate. Point 4. Good and bad habits both take some time to acquire force. Powerful bad habits can be displaced by opposite good habits if the latter are patiently cultured. Now, the fifth point, last point. First, crowd out all bad habits by good habits in everything. Then cultivate the consciousness of being free from all habits. Now we are going to do a freedom affirmation. We're going to do it twice. So please repeat along with me with energy, willpower, enthusiasm. These are master's words. Thou art in law. Thou art above all laws. I am thy child. I love thy law. Above all laws am I. Even as thou art above all laws am I. O, o a brave good soldier habits, drive away the dark habits. Drive away the dark habits. I am free, I am free. I have no habits, I have no habits. I will do what is right, I will do what's right. Uncommanded by habit's might, I am free, I am free. I have no habits, I have no habits. We'll repeat this once again. Thou art in law, thou art above all laws. I am thy child, I love thy law. Above all laws am I, even as thou art. Above all laws am I. O a good brave soldier's habits, drive away the dark habits. Drive away the dark habits. I am free, I am free. I have no habits, I have no habits. I will do what is right, I will do what's right. Uncommanded by habit's might. I am free, I am free. I have no habits, I have no habits. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you Barashami for giving us for collaboration on this platform, and please do cultivate one or two habits this week as you practice, and then this will be very helpful. And we can also this same time next week we'll join you again. The next week's topic will be changing habits, so please do join us. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Devarji and Premdas. I'm looking forward for next week. A wonderful beginning.